maybe I'm selfish. I want you to myself, I can't help it. Oh my, yeah, maybe I'm selfish.
بكم فيديو جديد. في الفيديو ان شاء الله اللي غادي نوريكم اقدم الفيديوهات اللي كاينين في يوتيوب.
Alright, so here we are in front of the elephants. Cool thing about these guys is that they have really long fronts, and that's cool. And that's pretty much all there is to say.
Welcome to Board Games with Scott, a weekly video log or vlog where I take a game, explain the game, and briefly review the game. This week I'm going to look at a party game. I'm going to look at Hoopla by the people who put out Cranium. Hoopla is an interesting game in that everyone is on one team trying to beat the game. So it's a little different from other types of party games where everyone's against each other or you're on two teams. And that's one of the most endearing aspects of this game. Let's open up the Hoopla box and see what's inside. Here are some of the components that come in the Hoopla game. The first thing you've got is a very nice instruction card. They thought about this for some time. They give you the setup here on one sheet. They tell you how the gameplay goes. They tell you what happens if someone gets it right or wrong and what you do. And then what you can do if you want to make the game a little bit more difficult. While gameplay is going on, you have the card sitting up like this because the card will tell you what you have to do based upon the roll of this large die. There's got a nice sized die with a number of colors. I'll talk about what the colors mean in a little bit. You've got the standard Cranium pencil and pad of paper that comes with the game. You've got 3 chits, the wild chits, which lets you deal with an uncomfortable situation. You know, maybe we need some of these in life. Here, have a wild chit. Everything's going to be fine. And then you've got these cards, and the deck is full of these picturesque cards. So the cards all have a picture. There's who cards, where cards, and what cards. So in this case, you've got a radio flyer and spandex. You've got a where of a food court and a where of Treasure Island and a who of Colonel Sanders and a who of a weightlifter. So that's the components. They're nice and sturdy, good for party play. Everything's pretty hefty, pretty chunky, which is nice when you're screaming and yelling and having a good time. So let's see how the gameplay really works. When you play the game, you're going to roll the die, which is going to tell you how you have to convey a card. Everyone's going to have a hand of the cards I showed you earlier. So you'll roll the die, and that will tell you what activity you have to do. Based upon the activity, you pick a card from your hand that you think you can best convey using that activity. And then you give it a shot. The timer is something that you start as soon as you start acting, and you've got a total of 15 minutes for the game. So the group has to get through all the cards in their hands, plus a stack of 8 cards in the middle, in order to win the game. Here's some of the ways that you'll have to get across your cards. You may have to do a cluedle. Cluedle is where you grab the paper and the pencil and you draw. You can't use letters or numbers, and you try and draw and get people to guess your card. There's soundstage. In soundstage, you act out using gestures and sound effects, but don't use any words. So soundstage, you can treat that as either sound effects running around, or you can even treat it like regular charades. The other 2 categories, tongue-tied. In tongue-tied, you have to come up with a phrase where every word starts with the same letter. And so you can pick any letter you want, but as soon as you start giving clues, the only words you can say are words that start with that letter. So their example here is major musician Memphis, and the answer might be Elvis. I found tongue-tied actually to be the hardest clue to give. It's difficult. You think of a few great words, but if no one gets it, you could be stuck. Tweener is the most entertaining category I found. In tweener, you give clues using the phrase, it's bigger than blank, but smaller than a blank. You can't say any of the words on the card. So their example here, you know, it's bigger than a rock and smaller than Superman might be kryptonite. So that one's actually very clever. That was actually, I found, the easiest type of clue to give, and you can be very clever about it. And then there's a wild. If you roll wild, you get to choose the action that you want along with the card you want. And that's what those wild chips are that I showed you earlier. The wild chips allow you to make any die roll a wild, but you only have 3 to use for the whole game as a team, so you have to decide when you need to use it. They're best held until the end when you've got tough cards to deal with. When the game is running, it'll look like this. The cards that are face up in the middle of the board are the cards you've already accomplished. Every player has a hand of cards, and then there's a stack of cards that you have to get through in order to win the game. So to win the game, you have to successfully explain all the cards you have in your hand and the cards that you have in your stack in 15 minutes. And the timer works pretty easily. Push it, and it starts ticking, ticking, ticking as time going away. You can take as long as you want to try and describe things, but the longer you take, the less time you've got left. So you have to decide when you're going to give up. If you give up, if you can't get the clue, then you give up, You hit the timer, turning it off. You tell everyone what
المهم اخوتي اللي عجبكم الفيديو ما تنساوش تابوناو عندي في لاصون تفعلوا زر الجرس باش يوصلكم اي فيديو جديد، وما تنساوش تدخلوا عندي انستغرام اللي تلقاو له لين ديالو في الديسكريبسيون، ونتلاقاو في فيديو